What is AOPA doing about safety for the general aviation community? Let's find out in the hangar. Welcome to In the Hangar. I'm Christy Wong.
And I'm Dan Milliken. In the Hangar is sponsored by Gold Seal and iFly GPS. Christy, what do we got today?
Well, we've got a really fantastic guest today. I've geeked out over this episode since we talked about it.
Yes. You know what? Growing up, I've always been fascinated with airplane crashes and things like that. Bought all the black box transcription books and everything else. And when I became a student pilot 5-6 years ago, I found some videos that just lit up my world and oh man, I loved them.
Oh man, these videos, you guys have probably seen them. These are the Air Safety Institute videos.
Exactly. I binged the Air Safety Institute. So who do we have?
We have today the guy that's in charge of those videos, Richard McSpadden from AOPA's Air Safety Institute.
Hey, delighted to be here.
I am so excited to meet you.
Thanks for having me here. And I'm glad to hear that. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
Richard, how did those videos come about?
Well, when AOPA got started some 81 years ago, one of the foundational reasons was safety. And so the Air Safety Foundation was stood up, now the Air Safety Institute. And we realized one of the best ways to educate people is through storytelling. If you tell people, first, if you're going to influence how people fly, you've first got to reach them. And to reach them, your content has to be engaging and interesting. I'm telling you guys this.
Right.
Yeah.
But so that's how the videos came about, and they're really the most popular thing we do. We do videos, but we also do podcasts, we do courses, we do quizzes, we do all kinds of things. And that material is accessed over 12 million times a year.
That's incredible. I mean, we personally have referenced the ASI videos for episodes that we've done. I mean, very recently, we referenced a video on a tragic accident with a Piper Arrow and a CFI who decided to go do aerobatic maneuvers in it. And
yeah. You know, that's the hard part of those videos. There's accident case studies, which the pilot doesn't survive. And then there's real pilot stories, which the pilot does survive, and they usually tell their own story.
Oh,
and
those
the
are my
accident
favorite,
case
though.
studies, they're tragic, but that's really a part of aviation culture and has been, and is a big reason why we've been able to show such success and safety, is that we're very candid about mistakes we and others make, and we put them on the table for everybody to have a look at, and we pick it apart for lessons learned.
Well, yeah, and the fascination for me, and I know Christy and I have talked about this, the fascination isn't just the morbid curiosity. It's more, what can we pull from this to make us a better pilot, a better person, which is kind of the mission of this whole channel. And that's what I really appreciated about watching all the different types of videos that you guys have, is that it's really obvious what the lessons learned here to make us better pilots.
Yeah, for me, it's about the understanding so that we can then apply it toward our flying. And then that way it gives me a better understanding of like how certain avenues work in aviation, whether it's the airplane, the capability, my capability, et cetera.
Yeah, this is music to our ears, because that's how we want people to consume them, right? Is we want the lessons learned, and we want you to sit in the cockpit with the pilot and think, what would you have been thinking? What would you have done? Would you have made the same mistake? And would you do it differently now if the experience ever arrives?
I reference your videos quite often with my students as a CFI. Go look at this. Here's a link to this video. Check this out. This is why,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to hear this.
Well, we do have one problem with the videos, and I'm glad you're here today because I want to address it.
Yeah.
When are we going to get more case studies?
Well, as you guys know, it takes a lot to produce something like that. And so to give you just an idea of where it starts, we like to wait till there's an NTSB investigation, so that piece is
That's
done.
concluded.
Yeah.
That's concluded, right? So you have the final report out. Occasionally we'll do one before, but very rarely. And then we go, we FOIA the tapes, so we have actual audio in there. We'll get whatever photos are there. We'll interview people as we need to. And then to piece all that together, make sure you got the facts right. Then we sit together as a team of CFIs and pull out the lessons learned. And then to put that into production and then finalize it, it's just time consuming. So we try to do one a quarter, and we'd love to do more, but that's just where we're at from a bandwidth standpoint.
Well, and I would like to argue that hopefully we can get fewer accidents so that they don't have as many to do.
That would be
But
the goal, that you wouldn't even need to, you wouldn't have any videos to do.
You know, we'd love
Exactly.
to say we would love to be out of business. You know,
Right.
that we really would in the safety.
absolutely. What do you think is a driving factor for bringing down that accident rate in GA?
Yeah, you know, I think part of the culture in general aviation and aviation in general has been we pick apart accidents and mishaps and we glean all the lessons learned from them, and that's a good thing. But we really think about 5 principles in safety: knowledge, training, proficiency, equipment, and culture. So if you take knowledgeable pilots, you train them well, keep them proficient, put them in reliable equipment, and then surround them in a culture that helps them make good decisions, that's how we're going to keep driving the safety rate down.
Okay, that's really good.
How is GA safety done through this pandemic?
You know, it's really done remarkably well, and we are very worried about it, Dan. It's a good question, because if you take dormant pilots and dormant airplanes by themselves, that's bad. That's a bad safety thing. Together, there's a really safety concern there. So we put out a guide to help pilots come back through. You know, if you've been rusty and you're coming back through the pandemic, flying is a really delicate skill, so don't think you're going to jump right back into the place you left from. Walk yourself back to that level of proficiency you left. But we've done actually very well, and it looks like, it's early to tell, but it looks like the fatal accident rate in 2020 is going to be lower than it was last year, and that's a good thing.
Do you think that ASI has played a significant role in the reduction of those accidents?
Well, I'm biased, but
Yeah, okay.
you know, yes,
enough.
I think so. And the reason I would say that is we're the largest provider of free aviation safety material in the world. So, you know, AOPA is it's important to be a member of AOPA. We hope people will, to help us keep skies open in the advocacy. But our board and our members have said that everything ASI does is free. So all of the videos we referenced earlier, the courses we put out, the podcasts that we produce, it's free to anyone. You don't have to be an AOPA member. We hope you will, but that's how much we value safety, because a rising tide in safety truly lifts all boats. You know, if everybody's safe, it's better for all of us.
All right, let me ask a question. As I look at training in general aviation, especially at the private pilot level, a lot of the maneuvers and things that are taught aren't really useful in a real world situation. Why don't we see more scenario-based training for pilots out there?
Sort
Yeah.
of like AQP in
Yeah.
the 121 world?
Yeah, you know, I think that's a good idea. And I think what's helpful to know is, you know, the standards are the minimum standards that you have to, you know, demonstrate to get your license, right? But you certainly shouldn't stop there. You should go well above that, you know, to be proficient. In fact, we just did some research on this item called expanded envelope exercises, E3. A guy named Ed Wishmeyer came up with a bunch of different exercises that put you in different scenarios. You know, it's well outside of the typical standards. So I think you're right, Dan. I think it is a good idea, and we certainly advocate and promote it. If you look at our focused flight review, which is, you know, pilots have to have a flight review every 2 years, we develop 7 specific focused flight review profiles, and you can print them out and go fly the profile with your CFI. And a lot of those maneuvers are what you're talking about.
Like the loss of thrust on takeoff, you know, things like places where the GA pilots are dying.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So
I think
that's
it's
in
I advocate it. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so many accidents where pilots are losing their engines, you know, shortly after takeoff, and
And stalling.
they don't know what to do
Yeah.
because that's not something that is typically taught
Well,
or
they're taught,
practiced.
yeah, the closest thing is the power on stall. But, you know, the problem is that, you know, they're losing an engine and they need to practice losing that engine and getting that nose down to not stall the plane.
Yeah, you know, I think you're right, because, you know, if you do stalls like we all learned them in training and you go up, you know it's coming. It
Right.
takes forever to stall the airplane typically, right? And so you're just, please stall for the love of God. And then and then what happens though in the real world scenario is pilots get distracted and they're turning base or they're on takeoff. This is a little known fact. Most stalls happen on takeoff and departure, not on landing.
Oh,
in
wow.
the base to final turn, the coffin corner. We've done a good job of making people aware of that, Now it's takeoff stalls that are really hurting us. That's where we see the most stalls happen. So, but getting pilots to recognize they're in this situation where just a couple knots more, just a couple more degrees of bank, and you're in trouble. We got some work to do there.
Yeah, your recent video or recent-ish on the Cirrus in Florida,
Yeah.
the bank and stall right there in the pattern.
Yeah.
So tragic.
Okay, what's on the horizon for you guys? What's next? Are we going to see some more case study videos? What's
Yeah,
coming?
what's next? What's next for us in safety too is we're still having too many weather-related accidents. So about twice a month we'll have a weather-related accident, and most of them are VFR into IMC. And so it bothers me that why can't we make more? The good news is in raw numbers, the total numbers have come down, but they're still higher than what we want them. So we've got some work to do there on the decision making. How do we get in pilots' heads and influence them at the moment they're making that decision to continue a little farther into the weather, and then they go too deep. So we've got some work to do there, and then more data analysis. That's where we're going next. Is data analysis, better data analysis.
Okay, I have one question. What is your most popular or even your personal favorite video out of all that you got?
Oh, gosh, the most, this is a hard question because if somebody asks you what's your favorite song or what's your
Right.
favorite movie, it's like,
Depends on the mood you're in.
what's fresh in your
Right,
mind,
exactly.
there's so many good, and several of them have been viewed over 1 million times. There's one that is just a heart-wrenching story about a man who had his son in the airplane, and I think it's called No Greater Burden. And he landed a seaplane with the gear down, and it flipped, and his son didn't get out. And he tells the story about that. And there were so many good lessons learned that came out of that he shared willingly, and that one is certainly an impactful one. We have our real pilot stories are fun stories. We had Kerry McCauley told us a great story, about him crossing the Atlantic. So
Yep.
those are fun because the pilots, they're telling the story. So I think those are my favorite because you actually get to talk to the pilot.
Yeah, those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Actually, where the pilot is actually going through. There was the one where the gentleman was in the King Air and his pilot, they were flying, and the pilot, I guess, had a heart attack and basically died. And the guy, he was a private pilot, but he jumps on and he's like, I don't know how to fly this thing. And then the way he tells the story, it's just so enlightening and also kind of funny. Just the situation, he was retelling it. He said he had never landed the King Air before, but he landed it and he's like, man, I'll tell you, that thing landed like a butterfly with sore feet.
Yeah.
It was just, but it was great to hear that he and his wife survived. Unfortunately, I think the pilot did pass away.
Yeah.
Not due to an air crash though, which is good.
Yeah.
But it was amazing to hear it from his perspective and hear how the air traffic controllers and everybody just came together to work through this situation. Such an incredible story.
Yeah, and that's so rare. Medical incapacitation is really, really rare. So for that to happen, and then for him to be able to take the situation,
Yeah.
that's a great
It was
great
just very,
story.
very
Yeah.
fortunate that he was a private pilot.
Yeah, and you mentioned something, Christy, that's really important. Controllers can really be helpful to pilots in emergency situations. And I think as pilots, we don't quite understand that enough. And we don't use them if we think, oh, I did this, I'm going to get in trouble, they're going to call me out, they're going to report me. If you talk to controllers, they don't have really any interest in doing that. They want to help you, get you on the ground, and turn to the next problem for the most part. So I think we got some work there to educate pilots. The controllers are there to work with you. They're not there to violate you and get you in trouble.
I have to agree with that. There was an instance that happened a few months ago where I was flying a jet. We had some landing gear issues after takeoff. And we worked really well with the air traffic controllers. They were extremely helpful. But one of the debrief items, after we got on the ground, we said, what could we have done better, et cetera. We never declared an emergency. And it was very clearly an emergency situation. And I think we were trying to just work the situation and not be a burden. Because, we had to ask for like a low pass by the airports. We asked them if they could look at our landing gear, et cetera. And it was just one of those realizations where I was actually in that moment and I did not utilize the system the way that I should have. And so they wound up basically declaring an emergency for us, rolled the trucks and everything, but why didn't we declare an emergency? And I think that's one of there's like a stigma on it, I think, that is so finely ingrained. but I know better now.
Yeah.
It's how can we educate future pilots, or people in future situations to take advantage of the system in the positive ways you're mentioning.
Yeah, I think you're right. We got some work to do to educate folks that they can help you. They can be a big help.
Well, as you've taken all the data and you've looked at all the different things going on in safety and general aviation, what advice would you give to pilots right now?
Yeah, I get asked that all the time, Dan. So one of my favorite questions is, what can I do to be a safer pilot? And my answer is, go fly. Be as proficient as you can be in whatever platform you're flying. I don't care if it's a Super Cub like I fly, which is about as simple as you can get, or up flying a CJ4 or something, right? And anything in between. Just be as proficient as possible at the platform that you're flying. That's number one. And number two is go to the airsafetyinstitute.org website and take all our material.
Yeah, I mean, it's free, right?
It's free.
So why
Free to
wouldn't
anyone.
you? Why wouldn't you? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. This has been such a pleasure. I've had a really great time talking with you today.
Likewise.
If you guys like what you see, please like, subscribe, and share our channel with others so that they can learn these great lessons as well. And we will see you next time.
In the hangar.